Southeast Seattle. And so I've asked Rita Green, who is the PTSA president for Rainier Beach High School, to come in and speak. I've also asked Dwane Chappelle, and he's the principal of Rainier Beach High School. And then we also have Michael Tolley, who is the assistant superintendent responsible for teaching and learning for the school district. And we'll also have Dawn Mason coming in, and she's, of course, former state representative for our district. So anyway, she'll be here in about 10 minutes or so, is what I understand. So anyway, I've asked the panelists to talk, basically, give about 5 minutes just sort of about what they think are sort of the issues concerning Rainier Beach High School and, you know, about education in Southeast Seattle. And what I'm hoping is that you'll find this really interesting in terms of the sense about what's going on here. And recently, you know, there's been news about Rainier Beach High School in terms of like an international baccalaureate program. There was some discussion, I think, in the news about the Green program. So anyway, I don't know much about it. I don't claim to know anything about it, actually. So let's take it away. And who would like to start?
Okay, I'll start. Again, I'm Michael Tolley, and I'm currently Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning for Seattle Public Schools. But I will have to tell you, I've been here for almost 6 years. The first 3 years, I was the high school director for Seattle Public Schools. So basically, everything and anything to do with high schools, I was responsible for, including Rainier Beach High School. And for the past 2 years, I've served as the executive director of schools for the Southeast region, which includes Rainier Beach High School. So literally, I've been working to support the principal at Rainier Beach High School for the past almost 6 years now. And I know firsthand the challenges, of course, that we face in providing support to the students and families at Rainier Beach High School within our system of schools within Seattle Public Schools. You may have heard over the years various initiatives that have been put in place to support not only Rainier Beach but the Southeast. There was, when I first came here, the Southeast Initiative was an effort to try to provide additional supports, not just for Rainier Beach High School, for Aki Karosi, as well as Cleveland High School. In most recent years, you will find that those supports have been put in different ways. But what I wanted to say, though, is that the unique challenges you find at Rainier Beach High School aren't as unique as you might think. What we have is a community where our students, or many of our students, are coming into Rainier Beach academically behind where we would like them to be. But that's also true at our middle schools. In fact, earlier today I was having a conversation with Mayor Williams, principal of Aki Karosi. Both Dwane Chappelle and Mia were in my office, and we were having this conversation. Mia was expressing the same concern with their incoming 6th graders at the middle school, that our students are entering middle school further behind academically than we would want. But that same conversation happens with our elementary schools principals. They're concerned that our students are entering kindergarten not well prepared for school. So you find that many of our students are performing a year or two behind where they need to be when they enter school, when they move into 6th grade, when they move into high school. So the challenge I've put in front of all the principals in the Southeast region is we have to get these students caught up academically. A year's growth, a typical year's growth is not good enough for what we want for our students in the Southeast. Because if you think of a student that's already 2 years behind, if they have 1 good year's growth, at the end of that year, they are still 2 years behind. So we need at least 1.5 to 2 years growth for all of our students in the Southeast in order to be able to close that gap. So in order to address those concerns, we put additional supports. As a district, we allocate resources based on those supports. We have not done it as well as we should be doing it over the years. That has been changing over time. Typically, we allocate resources where the needs are through, for example, free reduced lunch populations. those schools that are considered to be Title I schools have additional resources coming. Rainier Beach High School in particular has over 75% of the student population is Title I. I mean, free reduced lunch. So they're mandatory serve Title I. Federal law requires that we provide additional resources, as well as the fact that you have free reduced lunch state dollars that come to schools and allocated based on the number of students present at the school. So those resources are added, and as well as other resources. But you also find that in our middle schools as well as our elementary schools. But even at that, providing those additional resources, they're only as good as the individuals you're able to hire. So therein lies another challenge that we have. So making sure that we're hiring a staff that is reflective of the population being served and actually knows how best to meet the needs of those students. So as a district, we still face those challenges. We have to do a better job of recruiting the type of staff we need to provide supports to our students in the Southeast. But overall, I guess when it comes down to it, we are making progress. Director Patu mentioned the fact that 2 years ago, 9 of our schools in the Southeast region were labeled, identified as level 1 school, 1 out of 5 levels. We have reduced that number. We've cut that in half within a year and a half. And so we see significant progress happening, but not fast enough. Just the same challenge I put in front of my principals in terms of we need more than a year and a half growth to meet our needs of our students. We've got to be able to close the gaps for all of our schools faster. But that requires additional resources, but that also requires additional supports from the community. That means you. We need you to take ownership of our schools in the Southeast. We need you to take ownership of Rainier Beach High School as being our community school. Many of our students who live in the Southeast region, who live in the community feeder pattern for Rainier Beach High School, do not attend Rainier Beach High School. They elect to attend other schools. But by doing that, we have reduced the resources that we can put into the school. So I just want to end it there. We need you and we need all of our community and families to take ownership of their neighborhood high school, Rainier Beach High School.
Good evening. How's everybody doing? Good evening. I felt like I was in class. I am Dwane Chappelle, the proud principal of Rainier Beach High School. And as I kind of sit and look at this list of things that I was going to talk about today, I kind of want to just emphasize on what Mr. Tolley was saying, what our biggest challenge is. If you guys just take 5 seconds and look at the person on your right and look at the person on your left. I can go on and just tell you what challenges are faced at Rainier Beach High School, but the reality is our biggest challenge is our classrooms don't look like what's in this room right here.
Say that.
And we are a predominantly school of color, meaning 85% or more, or 90% of our students are students of color at the school. And we are really doing some great things at Rainier Beach High School. When you get some spare time, I'm just going to ask you to get on the OSPI report card and just look at the growth that we've made from last year, from 2010, 2011 to 2011-2012 school year. And you'll look across the board in every tested subject area we've increased. With an exception of geometry, we didn't meet our targeted goal, but we didn't drop that much as well. We went up 12% in science, we went up 6% in reading, we went up 18% in algebra, and we went down just 2% in geometry, but we held steady. And the biggest jump was writing. We went up 15% in writing. So as I just kind of sit and look at the room and just hearing conversation as I was standing at the door, I think our biggest challenge is just by show of hands. Can you just raise your hand or give me a thumbs up if you've been inside of Rainier Beach High School in the last 2 years?
Why were you all there?
Okay. So, so just in the 21 months that I've been at Rainier Beach High School, I just want to encourage you all to come out to dispel all of those myths that many people have said about Rainier Beach High School, because we are doing some really great things. president, Ms. Green, and a couple of others, we sat down and we just basically just ironed out what is this $1 million going to look like in a year, and we came up with a strategic plan that we rolled out to the community and our school as well. And we are still actually working that plan. Initially, the funds were going to end at the end of this school year, but with some support from our PTSA and Eric Pettigrew and Mrs. Patu, we're now in the process of that the funds being extended for over a 3-year period. So we have some funds and we have a plan of what we're going to do with the funds. Majority of the plan, where we're starting with what Mercer Middle School is doing. They're basically starting with the understanding about design, and just starting with the end in mind and designing lessons. But what research says, in order for our teachers to be successful with that, we have to have time to collaborate and plan. So that's what a bunch of our money, or the majority of our money is being spent on. Teachers just having the time to write lesson plans and assessments and have time to look at the data, interpret it once students have taken the exam. Ms. Green is going to get into some growth that we've made this year. We also implemented reading. We implemented reading and math benchmark assessments, and Ms. Green will share the data points that we've hit this year. I just want to encourage you all to, if you haven't been to Rainier Beach High School in the last 21 months, please come out and just see what we're doing in the classroom. And most importantly, we have the International Baccalaureate program coming to our high school. So, and if you don't know what International Baccalaureate program is, it's a program that ensures all students will have access to a rigorous curriculum, and by taking these classes, they can even potentially be awarded college credits when they graduate. My expectations, and I had a little pushback from the beginning, is that every student is going to participate in an international, an IB class. As of right now, every student, their junior year, will be taking an IB class. It will be IB Language Arts class. So my goal is to make sure every child is rewarded that opportunity to participate in a class that has high amounts of rigor. But ultimately, and you don't have to give me the answer now, but I would really love to know what it would take, because you guys are the community. I look at the data, we have approximately 12 to 1,400 students in the Seward Park community that's in Rainier Beach High School zone that don't attend Rainier Beach High School. So I just want to know, just if you can give us a target, or what would it take for us to gain your trust in sending your kids to Rainier Beach High School. So like I said, it doesn't have to be answered now. It can be something you can think about, email me or my PTSA, but that's just something I'm curious to know, because we are doing some really great things at Rainier Beach High School. Thank you.
So again, my name is Rita Green. I'm actually a graduate of Rainier Beach High School as well. My daughter graduated in 2009, and she is graduating from college in May. My son is a junior at Rainier Beach High School. And so what I always say is Rainier Beach High School is the best kept secret in Seattle Public Schools. We get the advantage of the smaller classes, so you get more one-on-one. Now, so I've been asked, there's 4 questions, and I'm going to speak to 3 of them. The first one is, what are the challenges? I'm going to talk about our challenges at Rainier Beach High School is the continued entry of 9th grade students at 5th and 6th grade reading and math levels. 5th and 6th grade reading and math levels. Okay, this has got to stop. And this makes us have to grow students 2 years in 1 year. So they got to grow 8 years in 4 years time span. And what I want for all of you all to do, and the media, is to stop thinking of Rainier Beach as the problem and think of our elementary and middle schools as the problem. Because it is criminal to send kids to high school with elementary and middle school academic levels. We cannot afford for that to happen. So we really have to do a better job there. And again, I'm speaking from a parent's point of view of what I see. Now, the challenges that are facing the Southeast schools in general are 3, as I see them. The first one is we have too many of the wrong teachers in our classrooms. And what I mean by that is our teachers see kids of color as a problem instead of thinking of them as the problem. And them, I mean the teachers. The teachers need to look and figure out, how do they reach our kids? How do they teach our kids? Number 2 is Seattle Public School and the school board's total disregard, lack of caring, and unwillingness to address the inequity in Southeast schools. And I'm saying in the past, we have made improvements, but in the past, so this is what the problems were. The third issue is, and this is finally the biggest issue that I see, and that is lack of parent engagement. Parents need to be engaged, and they need to hold their teachers and their students accountable. This has not been happening. And so for all of you, I would like for you to tell your friends, your neighbors, your coaches, anybody, church members, all that, they have got to be engaged with their school, make sure they're asking their students when they get home, you know, how was your day at school? What happened at school? Do you have homework? Go to the school and make sure you are on top of your kids' education. The second question is what's being done now. Attention has been brought to Southeast School, and I do want to give big credit to Betty Patu. Since Betty Patu has been on the school board, Southeast Schools finally has a voice. The previous school board members that represented Southeast District were too politically motivated and were not student motivated. Now, Betty is down there, she cares, and she makes sure that Southeast schools are being attended to, and that's why we're seeing the improvements that we have today. So, make sure you vote for Betty. We also have some strong advocates in Southeast, so we've got Sabrina Berg, who's also a beach alum, and she's over at South Shore. She does a lot of advocacy at the state level that people may not know about. We've got Mike Tolley, which is Carlina Brown, who's doing work. We've got Lucy, which is with CSEC, Southeast Seattle Education Coalition, and Nuruddin Ali, who is with Raja for Africa. So we are mobilizing and trying to get more people in the Southeast to be out. And that would be something that I would say is we need more people to join the Southeast Seattle PTSA as we plan and strategize, because we have to go to the district and advocate for our needs. And it's power in numbers. This is the only way that we have been able to bring a lot of the programs that we have at Rainier Beach today is by the PTA continually being in people's face, joining committees at the district, making sure that they understand what our needs are and hear us loud and clear. What we need right now, and the biggest thing that I could say again is for parents to get involved with their students and hold their teachers accountable, because we cannot wait for the district to move because they move too slow. So if we're going to save our babies, we have to stay on top of the teacher and the student. That's the most immediate thing that we can do to get results. And I put this handout together for Rainier Beach, so if you can take a look at, actually Dwane put it together and I just made some changes of it. But if you could take a look, the last 2 pages, one says how you can help Southeast School, and the very last page is how you can help Rainier Beach specifically. And so as was mentioned, again, we are trying to build a platinum green school. Rainier Beach has been passed over for several years for levy funds, and we still have an old building, which is still from the 60s, and we feel that our kids deserve a nice school just as all the other kids in Seattle Public Schools have. So we are starting to do our own fundraising to build our own school. Secondly, we want to continue a summer bridge program that has been successful for the incoming 9th graders, which is administered by the Dana K. Johnson Foundation. So we need funding for that. And we also want to bring a successful youth development program that we went down to look at, that we think would be really good for students at Rainier Beach High School. So we need funds for that as well.
And before we pass it on to Ms. Mason, I just want to share with you guys just a couple data points real quick. If you turn to the slide that says 9th grade algebra benchmark, if you turn to this page right here, when you look at this page, this shows you, it says assessment 1. So like I said, we're partnering with OSPI, and they're allowing us to pilot this program called Data Director. And in Data Director, what our teachers, what they do, they look at the standards that they're teaching in class, and they're able to develop assessments based on the standards. So if you look at our first algebra benchmark assessment, this was in maybe September, beginning September or mid or October-ish. This is how our students did. 38, as you can see, were well below, 22 were below, and one student met standard. The next assessment, as you can kind of look at the data right here and just see the growth that our students have made. And this assessment was in January, February-ish, and we're coming up now on our third assessment right here, coming up within the next couple of weeks. So that's what it looks like for algebra, for our an algebra 9th grade, for our 10th grade geometry. You can kind of look at the same procedure where our first assessment, our second, and then the bottom one is we kind of we're looking at.
So Dwane.
Yes, sir.
Why don't we hold
My time,
that
okay.
why don't we hold that for questions answered?
I just wanted to share some things. I'm sorry.
Passing the baton back and forth. Good old Rainier.
Thank you.
Keep giving hand.
I'm Dawn Mason, and I'm not, thank you very much. It's always good to be home here. So I obviously have no notes and I don't have script, because I'm very clear about what I'm here for tonight and very clear about the message I want to send. We have all people who here, they know the data. Welcome to Seattle. We like having you. I like that southern accent you have. Yeah, that's good. That's good culture stuff. And I think that's good. And young and creative. So I'm old and I've been around the block, so I'm going to allow you to ask questions of this young man. So this is what I want, why I'm here. The mayor came in and left. I think he saw me and left. Because I'm happy with him, and for good reason. And I'm going to tell you, I don't have a challenge because I already took care of it. If I have to be on Channel 21 at City Council meeting every Monday, I will be there to get the message out that we are not a colony. Southeast Seattle is not a colony to downtown Seattle and North Seattle. Money comes into our city earmarked for lowest performing students, families who are challenged, families who are poor, and the money never seems to get into the hands of those who have the best solutions. Who would have the best solution for a problem? The person who has the problem. So why in the world would we continue to bring people who live outside of Seattle? They do not know our families. They don't sit in rooms that look like this, that are diverse. They don't really even like our families. I mean, we've heard of our kids called thugs, you know, or our mothers are just, well, they're just a bunch of prostitutes because they have 3 children. It's that attitude, and I know they're saying it because they say it in the presence of our abolitionists. Do you know what abolitionists are? Those are the people who stood up black and white and gave their life, their soul, their money, their heart to abolish slavery on a moral persuasion. It's not on even a bunch of data. It's just that it wasn't right. It is not right for us to be out here in Southeast Seattle where all of the challenges are, but the money flows downtown. So there was an article in the paper recently that 7 school districts received Race to the Top funds. Did you hear that? 7. Yep. $40 million. It's incredible, isn't it? Well, guess how much Seattle has all by itself? $237 million. That's $200 million more than 7 districts have to share to close the achievement gap. We've been through 3 cycles. It has not reached the lowest performing children. Those are African Americans. On the city council website, it said it would go to lowest performing. But yet, on the Department of Education, Office of Education's website, which is under the mayor, they don't have African American anywhere. I have written a letter with 5 questions. I got one letter back from Holly Miller, didn't answer or even address, talked about the process. I know the process, it sucks. It doesn't work. If you send me to get a barrel of fish, I see that, a bucket of fish, and I come back with no fish because I have a hole in the net, you would expect me to fix the net because we paid you to bring back the fish. Well, the process doesn't work. It didn't get the money to the lowest performing schools or the lowest performing children, which are African Americans. Well, one reason is that they now, even for the campaign, they had African Americans on the campaign all over. But when it came to the strategy and the focus groups, they are not listed anywhere. In the questions I asked, could you identify one approved program, or 2 or 3, that says we focus on African American students? Well, I didn't get that answer. I got a second letter written by Mayor McGinn's communications and public relations person over Holly's name, and they still didn't answer the questions. So they flunked again. Mayor McGinn, next time I want it from you. I want the answer, not from your staff, I want it from you. The voters gave you $247 million for lowest performing students, and we are not getting the money. Holly has come out here, she's met with people, she smiles, she's nice. I know Holly well, we've worked together for years. She smiles, she says all the right things. So why in the world would the Chinese Information Service Center, in their first sentence says, we provide services to Chinese American students. Not Asia Pacific Islander, just Chinese American students. They were approved for direct funding for the next 7 years. They never have to apply again. When did the Chinese American students create the achievement gap? Mayor McGinn, when did the Chinese American students present the achievement gap that people in Seattle voted to close? They have not. Now, should they get the money? Yes. I'm not going to fight for the money. We have $240 million. That's enough for everybody to get some money. But it's not coming to African Americans. It's not coming to the lowest performing students. It's not coming to the lowest performing schools. Emerson, rejected. Dunlap, rejected. Martin Luther King, rejected.
So Don?
Yes. So anyway, that's the challenge. And so what can you do? The mayor's here, and I'm sure he's going to want some questions. Could you get him to answer? I haven't got the answer yet. So maybe he'll answer everyone here. I'm not mad at you, Mike. I'm not mad at all, but you are not the king. Holly is not the prime minister, and the city council is not the parliament. We are not your colony. You will not continue to get money that you go into black communities and African American communities and Asia Pacific Island communities and to our lowest performing children, lowest performing schools, and think you cannot use it as a slush fund. You cannot use it to make favor. It belongs to our children. We want our money. We are not your colony. We declare independence from downtown Seattle. And then, Mr. Tolley, we need our own school district.
Let's go to question.
So anyway, I wanted Mr. Tolley to tell the superintendent we need our own school district. We now have a basic district line. They call it the Ship Canal, north and south of the Ship Canal. That's a basic Dixon line, where we have. So they need to have our school and let us have ours and let us have our money. Thank you.
Questions and answers. This
Yes.
is where we're at now.
Yes, questions
So
and
who has
answers.
questions?
So let's Mr. Steinberg.
Sure, thanks. Well, that was fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome, Peter.
And Rita, thank you for mentioning the parent gap, because I think it is a serious issue. I think our schools struggle with the children who come to kindergarten without early learning, for example, without the advantages, and some have 3, 4
really need it. Holly Miller needs to be removed from that position because she continues to give money to the same white organizations that are not serving our kids. It is like pulling teeth and nail trying to get any of that family education levy money to our kids in our buildings. So the mayor needs to do a better job in understanding what schools need and who's getting the money
And
and
I
are
wasn't
they safe.
suggesting this notion of taking over our school district.
Thanks.
No,
Thank you. All right, so let's give another person a chance here.
Did one of the other panelists want to talk?
Can I respond?
Okay, sure.
Well, I was just going to say that as the principal of Rainier High School, one thing Mayor McGinn has been doing, which has been pretty beneficial for our kids. Last year, when I first arrived, he started doing attendance campaigns, coming out, encouraging kids to stay in school, providing incentives, whether it's tickets to the baseball game, the Sounders, but he was giving students iPods, and just different incentives to keep them coming to class and in school and staying motivated. So that's what I would, if you're the chosen one and wins the position, that's just what I would recommend, because it really impacts the kids seeing someone on TV and then coming to their school and actually encouraging them to stay in school and providing these incentives. And Mayor McGinn did it quite often last year, probably from October all the way through the end of the year. So that's just what I would definitely encourage.
And I would say very similar thing in terms of continually promoting public education as a strength within our city, and that you've got to have families and you've got to have the entire community involved in public ed. So that conversation has to go on constantly. You can never allow that to wane in any way. We just have to emphasize the fact that the education of our students and preparing them for what comes next after graduation is paramount.
Okay, so let's see, I have Caesar and Helena.
And then Amber after one.
Okay.
I'd just like to hear the mayor's response to what Dawn said. And Aaron.
Sure. So a few things. One is we have worked to focus our
Mayor,
efforts.
can I just ask, since this is a forum, and talk about what you've done as opposed to making a campaign speech?
I will do that. This one
Thank
is
you.
focused on, I will not
You're
talk
going to
about
answer
what
my question.
I'm planning to do, but I'm the speaker, I will attempt
Thank
to
you.
speak to your
Thank you.
questions. You'll have to decide whether I answer them to your
I can
satisfaction.
answer a direct question.
Yeah, well, I'll do my best here. So we have focused on the kids who have the greatest need. So first of all, I'm going to talk about our city budget first. We saw, pretty rough economic storm. We had to make deep cuts across city government, but there was one thing I would not touch, and that was human services. We substantially preserved human services funding in the budget, even through the deep cuts, and we preserved the Seattle Youth Violence Prevention Initiative, which serves the most at-risk kids for violence. In fact, when the economy got better, we proposed expanding it by 400 kids, and that will include 100 summer youth jobs for them as well. When we did our youth and family initiative, that's what we heard from kids they wanted the most, was the jobs. So and the council is still holding on to that money. We'd like them to release it. And the program was originally designed for 800 students. It's got something like 1,100 in it, and we're trying to make room for another 400 because the need is deep and it's there. We did, well, look, that's what I did. We College Bound program, which is a state program that provides that your tuition will be paid for if you sign up in the 7th or 8th grades, maintain a 2.0, and you're a low-income student. 2 years ago, we signed up 100% of the kids that were eligible. Last year it was 90-something%. This year we'll sign up another 100%. Those first kids are going to school. We did work to double the Families in Education levy. It is not big enough to reach every school. You can point to schools that have not been funded. But if you go to the website, I can point to schools that have been funded.
Lowest performing.
And those are the schools that through a competitive grant process. I do not put my thumb on the scales. There is a committee that is composed of stakeholders representing various leaders in the community who know education, who evaluate the proposals from the different schools, and they recommend where the awards will go. We have also approved community benefit organizations to provide
a different debate about the family and education levy.
That's what I came for.
And not a debate about
I
what.
definitely came about where's our children's money.
I understand that, but we're talking about Rainier Beach High School and focus on Rainier Beach High School.
Okay,
and
I
Southeast
won't say
education.
anything more. I'll be on TV and do it.
All right.
We are not your comedy,
Okay, so, Elaine.
and you're not a king.
Well, first of all, I want to commend the principal. These are some significant reductions. And so my question is geared to the principal and the assistant superintendent. I spent a lot of time working with community initiatives like CCER, one of the recipients of that $40 million Race to the Top grant. And their focus is to work on Southeast schools and South King County schools. I would like to know specifically, one, is that type of initiative helping Rainier Beach? And if not, or in addition to, what other type of community initiatives are really helping to change the academic course of the students going to Rainier Beach?
Great.
And then on a side note, I've had 5 kids, 3 through Seattle Public Schools. Be happy to talk to you later about what you can do about public schools.
So let me speak to the Race to the Top funds that went to the 7 school districts in the Southeast. That application actually spoke about 7 projects that involve early learning as well as increasing graduation rates. Specific to Rainier Beach High School, it would be around providing additional supports and tracking students' progress towards meeting graduation requirements and seeing if there are opportunities to partner across districts in terms of identifying strategies that would be supportive of that work. Again, the way the grant was awarded, various schools in various districts received what we call deep dive investments, where major funding goes into a school. We in Seattle did not get an initial deep dive investment of funds in any of our schools. We do have the ability, though, over the next year to apply for it and seek those funds. And of course, we will be doing that. But anyway, there are 7 different projects and a very focus from what they invest early in early childhood, but also supporting students towards graduation.
As far as the community initiative that Rainier Beach High School is focusing on, what I've taken it upon to do, and myself and my co-workers, so South Shore's principal, Aki Kurosi Middle School's principal, and Graham Hill principal, well, we kind of see ourselves as the little triangle. We're trying to triangulate the whole Southeast corridor educational gap. So what we're doing, we're constantly having professional development with each other. We're looking at attending a school turnaround conference at Harvard that will help us develop a plan to make sure that all of our schools are aligned with whatever the district strategic plan is, but not only that, just to a plan that's going to increase students' performance as my superior is requesting, 2 or more years of growth in students. So we're looking at that. But something that we're doing right now is Rainier Beach High School, we offer a Microsoft computer science class, and where students are taught by Microsoft engineers. And in first period in the morning, so South Shore Middle School students actually walk across the street. Everyone that's in the class receives a smartphone, and we're teaching the kids how to develop those applications on the smartphone. We also have South Shore students taking Spanish, and 8th graders taking Spanish. We also have 8th graders taking geometry. So when they do come to Rainier Beach High School, which we hope they'll be enrolled in Algebra 2. We're just getting that college readiness preparedness, getting them ready for college and prepared to be successful once they get to high school. So we're kind of working on our own little initiative in the Southeast, but at the same time, I have met with several, is it 5 and 5? Is that Rainier Beach?
5.
CSEC 5 by 5, and that's something that we're definitely interested in doing. So, I've been here 22 months at Rainier Beach High School, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I started my day this morning probably around 6:45, and it's almost probably 8:45 now. But it's something that I'm committed to, and definitely when all my colleagues and I get together, we're all brainstorming and thinking of ways that we can help better, not just Rainier Beach High School, but just the whole South End schools.
We have another question back here.
So first I want to say, bless you to Rita and Mr. Chappelle. What you're doing there is amazing, and as a parent at a South End elementary school, I'm very familiar with the networking that the principals are all doing now and the tight relationships that you've all got, and it's amazing. It's very impressive. It saddens me that we work our principals to death like this, and that it's people like our principals and parents that are coming together with the solutions, particularly in a room full of politicians. Hello. You know, Peter asked a little while ago, what will it take, or Mr. Chappelle asked, what will it take for you to send your kids to South End schools? With all due respect, I get the popularity of this Be Here, Get Here campaign. As a parent of 2 children of color, I don't need an iPod. I don't need a celebrity calling them to wake them up in the morning. I got that covered. What I need is a high-quality education, the same as what is found in every other school outside of Southeast Seattle. I'm a single parent. I'm struggling. That is all I want. A quality education for my children. So you want to know what your role is as mayor? Make that happen.
That's right.
I don't want to hear any more excuses about how the mayor doesn't have control over the school board and nobody has control over this and nobody's responsible. The only people that it seems are responsible are people like Rita and Mr. Chappelle. What's wrong with this picture? Why are we not supporting them in the way that we should so they can provide the quality education that they got involved in this to do in the first place? And FYI, also wanted to say, I took advantage to Facebook, your question a little while ago, and just in the last half hour, that is the response over and over that I'm getting. Quality education, not iPods, the phone idea, developing applications, that's awesome. If it's technology that brings them into the future, that we're teaching them about, awesome. But as just incentives to go to school, no. I want a quality education. That's our incentive.
From the right teacher.
So as far as one of the things, South Shore School has an early algebra project,
Right.
and it's a parent initiative, again, unfunded. The Family Education Levy rejected it. They have a Saturday academy and doing incredible things, bringing algebra. The parents on Saturdays sit right at the desk with the children and learn math, rigorous, complex math, and yes, and so how the schools, and now they're over at also Graham Hill School. So the best programs are coming from parents and within community, but they aren't being funded because gimmicks like another tutoring that they even said in their application, we have no people of color on our staff, we have only white women, but if the city gives us money, maybe we could do some diversity. Shouldn't be too hard. They said, actually, I could quote that whole thing, and they said all of our tutors are role models for our students. Well, how is a white woman a good role model for an African-American, Hispanic child? I don't think so. You know, that's what they're funding. That Pi Plus got approved.
So
Okay.
we reached the end of our time. So I want to thank,
And
first
you
I want to
voted.
thank our panelists for being here.